temporary magical servitors that are for psychic vampirism. If that is your thing, stick around. Here's a quick little lesson. So if you've followed any of my other videos, I've talked about the energy ball. When you become more proficient with the energy ball and you are getting into psychic vampirism, you can also create an energy ball that is a form of servitor. And you can name them, you can create sigils to tag them to it, so you can keep them around. However you want to do it, you can do that. One of my favorite ways, and now this is coming from years of experience here, is to do it this way. Because I have always been obsessed with vampires, I like to make an energy ball and envision it until I can see it in my mind's eye as a purple, energetic bat that needs to feed on energy of people that are either doing me dirty or I'm just wanting to send one out for whatever reason. Because some people will curse people on the fly. I don't like to do that. I do have a moral code most of the time, but in some cases I will be like, you know what, somebody needs to be reminded of who I am. So I will create multiple of these energy bats until I can visualize and feel that energy go from a clockwise motion into a more, it's stable, it's kind of just staying there, and I can feel the flapping of the servitor's wings, and I will will that to fly to a target, or I will create a dozen of them and just have them essentially flying around me non-stop throughout my day. That way if something comes at me, they are programmed to start feeding on the energy that was sent at me and then go after the person that sent something at me. Programmed to feed on their protections first. After they've fed on the specific protections, then feed on the person. Like, I like to wear somebody's protections down before I start to go myself. But this is something people can do to protect yourself from other attacks. Another thing I will do typically before bed. Now, I'm not going to tell everybody all of my protections. I'm only telling people maybe 5% of what I have in place. And that's just safety on my end. But one of the things I love to do before I go to bed, before I film any of my lessons or anything like that, is to create several of these bats that are constantly protecting me in my sleep. That way if something comes at me, they're taken care of it and I can get a good night's sleep. If something does come at me, they feed on that energy, and when they do, they become more self-sustaining to where they're constantly still with me. Like, at any given time, I can feel the presence of, I'm not going to say how many, but let's just say several, that are constantly with me from the day that I started doing this. You know, I remember watching Fright Night. It was my favorite movie, and still to this day, the original Fright Night. And whenever I started getting into psychic vampirism, whenever I was a teenager, I remember watching Fright Night, and I would have been 16 when this started. And I was like, well, I know what servitors are. Why can't I just make an energy servitor anytime I want and make it look like a bat and feed on energy that's coming at me? And it was like right after towards the end of the movie, whenever Jerry Dandridge turns into that monstrous looking bat, I'm like, oh my god, that's so fucking cool. So, anywho, I started creating energetic servitors that were shaped like that to feed and protect and bring excess energy back to me, because bats will feed their own, you know, especially vampire bats. They'll regurgitate blood to feed other bats in the community that either are too young to fly out, too weak to fly out. So I program my servitors to kind of do the same thing, bring energy back and feed it into my energy shield, because I always kind of cast a shield. I always have a giant circle drawn underneath any bed that I'm in with a ton of different things. I'm not going to go into everything that I do, but these are some of the things that I put in place for my own energetic safety. But sending these bats out, programming these bats to where when they become too full that they split open like a cell into two bats just to continually protect me. Because there's been periods in my life that other practitioners, for whatever reason, have come after me. And I've always been a person that really suggests all of us to get along, all of us to work together, to learn from each other, because 9 times out of 10, I don't care how experienced you are, there's a lot of times I learn something new from somebody that is new. They've figured something out on their own that is just beautifully unique, that works. So I'm all about the newbie witch, all about it. And I always tell people whenever they're like, oh, they're just a newbie, I'm like, and you know what? Sometimes that newbie could be more powerful than you are. And you just don't know it because they, one, have a stronger belief than you do. I mean, there's so many things that you should take into consideration, and some people don't. And just like I will gladly hire other practitioners to cast curses for me if I'm sick or I'm kind of at a period where I just don't want to do it myself because I'm working on myself. And, you know, I mean, just for whatever reason. And I love supporting my fellow practitioners. You know, I think that's just one of the parts of our community is we should do that, you know, and I never expect anything for free. As a massage therapist, you know, if somebody came in expecting a free massage, I'm like, okay, so how am I going to feed my kid this day? Because, you know, I'm by session. You know, my kid needs a new pair of shoes. He's 13. He ain't stopping growing. He literally went from a size 6 to a size 9 in a year, shoe-wise. You know, it's like, same thing with witchcraft. You know, I expect people to charge for their time. But when it comes to psychic vampirism and creating a on-the-fly servitor, create a bat. Program it, have it nourish you, have it come back to you, have it to where it becomes self-sustaining. So one day you wake up in your 40s and you know that, do I really want to make bats tonight? Oh wait, no, I've got so many. Just saying. Anyways, I hope this lesson helps some people, and as always, if you want more information about certain practices that I do, especially now that I'm throwing myself back out into the community, you can check out my Patreon. The link is in my bio. I do have a free tier where I do offer some lessons there. Now, I'll always offer certain protections there. I do some spell work for people that are on my membership, but if you want the goods, I do charge $20 a month for basically me casting spells for you, me teaching you how to do spells, and as well as empowerments and things like that. So, and I do have like cheaper tiers too. That's like, I think one's like $6 a month, and I do like a protection spell on everybody in that tier. But most of my protection spells are psychic vampirism based because I like to get my energy back and also come back with energy too if somebody's attacking my clients. So anyways, you all have a blessed evening, and I hope this lesson reaches the ones that it needs to.